YouTube? Yeah.
Okay, Julian. Am I supposed to stand here? Is that good? We're on TV. All right, so this is the first time we're streaming, and that's thanks to WHCP. Mike Starling is our
Julian, Doug.
Mostly Julian. Make no
mostly
mistake
Julian
about it.
Jackson
It's
here.
pretty much Julian.
It's Julian. Come on.
So we're all getting out to the outside world and getting a little modern here with the old CAN organization. CAN is up to 720 households. So that's good. It's 20 more than last month. And we keep dreaming in. We keep coming in mainly from the suburbs, the new development outside, and down in Ward 1 and Ward 5, the heavy hitters. So what we do want to do tonight is have a really nice discussion here. But before we get there, I have some administrative stuff to do. We have a meeting coming up in January, on January 16th, right here. It's our annual meeting where we fill board vacancies. We have 2 board vacancies this year, and we have Donna Towers, who's sitting over there, who volunteered, and Kim Miller, who is in Ward 1. She volunteered, but she's sick, and she said she was gonna listen to me on the streaming. So, hi, Kim. I'm not good on TV yet. So anyway, I would like to encourage you to join CAN. We could always use more, and encourage your friends to join in. We'd like to have as many members as we can, and especially in as many wards as we can get into. And we would like to keep you all up to date. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to the chief. He's going to talk about Cambridge policing, and he's our new chief of about 18 months. And he's already installed a new program, which I really like, which is community policing. I should be given a lot of credit for that. It's a great program to get the police into the community and to know the people in the community. And with that, Chief, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Sure.
Thank you, everyone. It's really good to be here. Again, my name's Sean. I'm the Chief of Police in Cambridge. I've been so since August of 2022. And I just heard 720 households, and talking about community-oriented policing and what we're trying to accomplish, and being able to be here tonight and speak and be live streamed as well. That's what we're trying to get to. We want transparency in our community between the police department, and let the residents of Cambridge know that we're a part of that community. Just because we wear a uniform every day and we serve and protect our community doesn't mean that we're not a part of what goes on in the city every day. So I think that's very important. A few things I'm going to talk about this evening. One will be community-oriented policing, and also Captain Patton will go into the neighborhood watch aspect of it. It's another part and aspect of community-oriented policing. But to give you a little bit about the Cambridge Police Department and where we are, we have 35 sworn officers right now. We have 2 that are be graduating Monday, the 18th. So we will have them out on the street probably the 19th. We'll get them out on the street and ready to go. So we're looking forward to that. And we also have 2 more recruits going into the academy in January. So we're constantly working hard to add to our force, and to not only add to our force, but make the right decisions to have the officers that we feel are right for the city of Cambridge and what we're trying to accomplish. You know, the police academy, you go to the police academy and you're taught how to survive on the street, how to be, you know, sound thinking, make right decisions. You learn constitutional law, criminal law. But when you graduate from the police academy, then real hard work begins, because you get put in a community and you have to learn how to police in that community. Every community is different. Every community has their challenges. Cambridge has its own challenges. So it's important that when we go through a hiring process, that we may have 18, 19 applicants. Are they right for the city of Cambridge? Are they going to help us make the strides we want to be through community-oriented policing, reducing crime numbers? So all that's important. Crime aspect of it, throughout this year, gun violence has been a hot topic throughout. We average just about a gun a week off the street confiscating. That can be, which is certainly significant compared to last year's numbers where we had, I believe, 23 guns seized. So it's definitely a difference. Crime-wise, our Part 1 crimes for the year, and I'm going to knock on some wood here because our crime numbers in a lot of areas are going down. Last year we had 7 homicides at this time. This year we've had 2. Our aggressive assaults are down. Our percentages we don't have right now. We'll probably have those mid-January, but our burglaries I know are down over 50%. So they are trending in a very, very good direction. And my first credit to that is that the police officers that are out patrolling are out patrolling. They're out doing their foot patrols or patrol checks. The second is how we are policing. You know, we are getting out into the community. We're getting more feedback now than we ever have. We're getting that communication. We're getting those phone calls saying, hey, you need to look over here. There's something going on with this residence, or there's something just not right. So we're getting that community input on those, you know, anonymous tip lines. Or some people aren't anonymous. I can be in Walmart and people will come up and say, you know what, this is what needs to be, this needs to be done. And I appreciate that. We also want the public to know that we're not perfect. We're going to make mistakes along the way. There's going to be things that a resident or a citizen might not agree with that we have to take action on, or an officer feels like they do. And there's a process to go through. I want to hear that too. I want to hear from our community and what's going on, how they're feeling about how we're policing. Software and data has been a big push for us this year. You know, obtaining the data is key to building, you know, success in the police department. Where's your crime happening? What kind of crime is happening in certain neighborhoods? For example, vehicle thefts throughout this year. That's been our number one problem citywide. You know, we did some of our software system that we're coming up with, or we're building heat maps to show where exactly crimes are occurring. This is for vehicle thefts. As you'll see, it's all over the city. It doesn't matter where it was. And our vehicle theft, unfortunately, were done mostly by juveniles and juvenile crime. So that, however, I can say in the last month, since October, we've only had 3 vehicle thefts, which a number might sound alarming, but we had 130 some throughout the year thus far, which is just staggering compared to 46 in 2022. So that's something, and I credit a lot of that to some of those juvenile offenders that did the crime. They're getting the resources they need right now, whether that be you know, in a facility, or juvenile services is working, trying to rehabilitate that juvenile and provide them the services they need. So I also want to, as we're on the juvenile topic, the curfew is a big topic and has been a big topic for over the last year, and what we're doing and how we're going about that. Since October 1st, it was reinstated. It was reinstated with different guidelines that would provide assistance with SINS cases, which was brought forth by the mayor's recommendation, which has been a great recommendation. We've only had 5 curfew violations since October 1st. So it's hard to give a lot of data on such a short period of time. I'm looking, 6 months down the road and a year from now, where exactly we will stand when it comes to the curfew. But more importantly, besides the curfew, is what is going on with the juveniles? How are we getting them the resources they need and better assisting them? And I think right now, in the position we're in, I think SINS is somewhat of an answer. The juvenile reform laws, they have definitely made it a challenge in the police world in many different aspects. Certainly, crime 13 and under the age of 13, they can steal a bike and not be charged. They can not have consequences. And that's a challenge that we, the police and the community, have to somehow overcome. And it's all about working also with different agencies, juvenile services, the state's attorney's office, and the police, social services. We all have to sit to the table and work it out together and provide services to the families. And the curfew, there's a reason why a child is out on the street, 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. Is it because, they're not listening at home, or is it a problem at home? Are they really are they not allowed to be home? We've ran across all of that. Couch surfing, people heard that term, where they're living from one place to another, just getting by, and we have that in our community. And the police, we're not going to arrest our way out of the juvenile problem, crime problem. It's going to take communities coming together, such as building things as neighborhood watches, stuff like that community-oriented policing. I talked about how many officers we have sworn. We also have a civilian employee that is funded by the city. He's a civilian liaison, and he was hired in April. Part of his duties is to go out and help with events, go out and talk to the banks in the morning, make sure everything's good, be a part of the community. We also have what we call a ProTech position that is funded through the state that we just received. Lamont Goodson, anybody that knows Lamont, he is out in the community. I met him, I think the mayor introduced me to him about a year ago, and every time I've seen him since, what can I do? How can I help? And he will be out in our high crime microzones, getting out, taking care of nuisance issues, talking to the apartment complexes, the apartment managers, and seeing what we can do as a police agency to build those relationships and how we can make things stronger. One of our highest crime areas is an area of Greenwood Avenue area, and that probably half a mile corridor around there. We just put a substation there at the Altair Apartments, actually in the apartment complex, to be a part of that community. We want the officers in that community being able to be seen, being a part of the community, and let the criminal element know that it's not going to happen there. We're not going to keep doing the same thing over and over again. We're going to make the apartment complex responsible. I'm very thankful to the city manager and the city officials and council. They've worked hard. We're going to make these apartment complexes responsible for the crime they're having and the negative impact it's having on our city. Future goals of the police department, I wanted to take a minute. We are, as I mentioned before, we're doing a lot of data initiative. We're driven. we developed a division with the Office of Professional Standards, whose part of his job, Sergeant Flynn, if anybody knows him, is developing data, hotspot areas that we as a police department can patrol with a purpose, that we can know what hour, be able to put the officers in them areas where that crime's occurring, where the hot spots are, where it may be, or vehicle thefts occurring in that area between 9 and 11 p.m. And really shrinking down, exactly how we're patrolling, not just driving around doing patrol checks or checking a building, but actually going out and having targeted areas that we know where crime may occur. We can't always predict that, but we can certainly look at the data that we're given and do everything we can to try to prevent the crime and prevent the next victim of the crime. And I think that's probably the more exciting thing we're really looking forward to as we're moving forward into 2024 as a police department, is really getting out, having the data available to the citizens so they can see exactly where the hot spots are. When you see my end of the year report that'll come out probably in January, it's going to have those crime maps on there. It's going to show you where the shots fired calls are, or the weapons violations were, things like that you like. And I think the last thing that I would like to definitely, talk about is our school resource officer that we've had in the last year and a half. This is the second school, Macy's Lane last week, and Corporal Joe Jones, he's our school resource officer. And to see the interaction that he's able to have with some of them students and some of them children makes me know that we're doing the right thing by having an officer in school, in that school, because it's building that relationship and that rapport with that officer, but not only that officer, but with the uniform. And I think we need to continue that. Hopefully, as time goes, we'll be able to have an officer in every school. We try to get out there. We try to do the patrol checks out there and do the walk arounds. I think it's important that the younger we can get to the children and let them know that they can trust the police department, they can trust law enforcement, and that their community's behind them. I think that will go a long way. And everybody wants to talk about ShotSpotter. I know a lot of people have heard about ShotSpotter and what it means to the city. It's an investment that the city made that has worked out really, really well for the police department. But not only ShotSpotter alone, our camera systems that we have put in our hotspot and crime-ridden areas, that has been a plus for us, because between the ShotSpotter alarms going off itself, the cameras, which we can follow where the suspect may have ran to, that's all very important. And then besides that, we are with the ATF, we are in a system called NIBIN, which is the National Integrated Ballistics Informational Network. And every shell casing that we're able to obtain from a crime scene, and it doesn't have to be a shooting situation. It can be something where a shot was fired, the officer gets the alert, goes to the scene and finds one shell casing. That shell casing comes back, we put it in evidence, we send it off. That shell casing is just like a fingerprint to a gun. We've had cases come back where one gun led to over 12 identified shootings in the city of Cambridge off one gun from that system. And I credit all those systems, ShotSpotter, our surveillance camera systems, and NIBIN through the ATF, of being able to actually catch that subject that was doing most of their shootings and crimes. We've also, through ShotSpotter, have been able to identify homicides, guns that were seized here that were involved in homicides in Montgomery County and PG County. So stuff helping the crime. Somebody's coming here to commit the crimes. We want to know who they are and get them so they're not committing and making our next victim out on the street. And finally, transparency. I don't know how long I was allowed to talk, but if I just tell me to be quiet. Yeah. Transparency. A lot, I hear a lot of, crimes up, crimes high. And I expected that, I believe that we have to, because you're seeing those press releases and they're kind of new, crime is not at a level that has spiked. It's not at a higher level than it was a year ago. You're just hearing about it more. And that's a good thing, because I think the more you hear, the more you know, and the more we all can work together to come up with the solutions. And with that, I thank you. I really, truly am happy to be here talking to you all, both in person and on live stream. I think it's important we get the word out. And another important topic that Captain Patton's going to come up here and talk about right now is the neighborhood watch.
Chuck, you want to take some questions now?
Why don't we let Captain Patton talk and the mayor, and then we'll take questions.
Good evening, everyone.
I did.
Good evening. Good evening. Happy to see everyone. I promise you I will not be as long as the chief. However, we have to take a test first. We ready for a test?
Sure.
How many people do we have that live inside the city limits of Cambridge? Oh, okay. Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
How many do we have that live inside the city
We
limits?
just moved to Cambridge, so we're not sure. Are we in the city?
Must be close enough.
Somebody give me a number of people. Give me the number of people that we have that live inside the city. A number of people. The number of people who live inside the city limits of Cambridge. What's the number?
13,000.
13,000. Okay. Now, test number one. Question number one. Very good job. You yourselves a round of applause. Very good job. Very good job. Now, how many police officers did the chief say that we have? 38. Oh, wait a minute. I have 35, 32, 38. What was it, chief?
37.
You're all wrong.
Not until the 19th.
37. So we have 37 police officers, but yet we have 13,000 people that live inside the city limits of Cambridge. So that means the police department kind of outnumbered, aren't we? So that's why we come up with programs like Neighborhood Watch, because we need the help of our community to help us solve crimes. Neighborhood Watch program started in 1972. The National Sheriff's Association said, you know what? As police officers, we need help. We need help solving crimes because you guys live in the communities. We don't. You guys are there 24/7. You guys know when something's out of place in the community. You guys know when someone shouldn't be in the community. And you guys see the problems that we don't see. When we're riding around at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning and it's dark out there and you guys are asleep, it's great and wonderful, but you guys are there in the morning, but we're not there. You guys are there when you leave to go to work in the morning. You guys see more than we don't see, because I'm gonna try to stand still, stand in front of this thing and not move around. When police officers come around, what do bad guys do? They run and they leave and they hide from us, correct? But who sees the bad guys before we get there? The neighborhoods do. So that's why we created our Neighborhood Watch program. Who remembers the old Police Academy movies? There it is, talk to people. That is not what Neighborhood Watch program is about. How our Neighborhood Watch program does work is we take neighborhoods, maybe 2 blocks at a time. We assign a police officer to each block or two. Each block or two has a watch captain. Everybody will be in contact with that watch captain. And things that are non-emergencies, let's say, lighting issues in your community or things like that, they would contact the watch captain, and that police officer that's assigned to the neighborhood watch would come and do a meeting monthly for your neighborhood watch and talk about those problems and come up with a strategic plan to fix those. However, if there's an emergency, something that needs to be dealt with right then, people involved in the neighborhood watch would call our non-emergency number 228-3333 and say, hey, this is such and such. I'm with the neighborhood watch program, and this is what I see. We need a police officer to come and take a look at it. Maybe something's wrong. We'd rather for you to call us or you have a feeling that something is happening until something happens and it's too late and nobody called. I'll tell you a short story. We actually have 3 neighborhood watch programs that we've started. One of our neighborhoods, their problem was speeding. It was terrible. Everybody from outside the neighborhood was coming in the neighborhood and they were speeding and we didn't know what to do about it. So we had a neighborhood watch. We started a neighborhood watch. We actually took our mobile speed sign trailer and we put it in the neighborhood. And guess what we realized? That all the speeders were people who lived in the neighborhood that were coming home from work in the afternoon on their lunch breaks, when they were coming home. So we just had a meeting about it and realized, well, it is us that's speeding in our neighborhood. So we had a neighborhood watch meeting about that. We have another neighborhood watch program that's actually started, and they had an issue with lighting. So we contacted Delmarva Power about the lighting in their neighborhood. So neighborhood watches is about crime, but it's also about what we need in our neighborhood. Because unless you guys tell us what you need, we don't know. So we're that vessel to get things rolling for anything that you would need. Neighborhood watch, nobody has to give their name, what they call the police department. And in your neighborhood, in the past where they didn't want to meet monthly, they wanted to meet quarterly, and they met here at the library. They ate, had food, and sometimes they meet at the YMCA so everybody could come and talk and mingle. Because we live in a society now that a lot of people don't know their neighbors because of the hustle and bustle of life, and people work different shifts and nobody knows their neighbors. So it's also a time for a sense of camaraderie for our neighbors to get together and learn and know of one another. And that way we can know, hey, this person works these hours, so we need to watch over our neighbors' houses. So if anything's funny that's going on there, we need to call them or contact the police department. Because you, as I said, you guys know, but we don't know. We have had a tremendous uptake in people buying ring cameras, door cameras, and things of that nature. It is a great help to the police department to know who has ring cameras and who has door cameras. Because I can tell you the last couple of homicides that we have, guess what helped us solve our homicides? Ring cameras and door cameras. So that's something that neighborhood watch programs can also help us with. We can have a list of who has door cameras and ring cameras. That way we can contact them in case something were to happen in your neighborhood. Because it's good when something bad happens and we can watch a suspect walk from, let's say, the 100 block of Maryland Avenue to the 200 block to the 300 block of Maryland Avenue, so we can track that suspect along the way. Does anybody have any questions about our neighborhood watch program, or who would like to get one started?
How do we get in touch with you?
Oh, that's easy. See that whole stack of business cards right there?
There's also a sign-up sheet in the back as you came in the door. You sign that sheet, we'll give it to Captain Patton.
And those who are live streaming, you can just call the Cambridge Police Department and ask for Captain Patton, and we will. I'll get back to you. We can start your neighborhood watch program, and I'll assign a police officer to your neighborhood. And another police officer will be your officer. Yes.
You mentioned the partial phone number, 238?
410-228-3333.
Okay.
That is our non-emergency number for everyone to call. That's also the number to call to contact Captain Patton for anyone who wants to start a neighborhood watch program. Any more questions, concerns? Thank you. I kept my promise. I promised you I would not be as long as you. But thank you, guys.
Mayor, are you gonna speak on juvenile reform?
Thank you, Chuck. I'll take just a few minutes to talk. A lot of questions have come up about the Juvenile Reform Act, and I'm not here to defend it, but to give you just a bit of a concept of what it it's about and some of the challenges and what some of the things that we're trying to do about it. The Juvenile Reform Act was passed here a couple of years ago. It talked about under 13, you can't be charged as a delinquent, et cetera, except for certain crimes. Well, what should have happened as part of that process is training should have happened with agencies, with police, with prosecutors, et cetera, so that they understood what they would or could do or needed to do in order to make the law work better. When I was on the bench in Virginia, as part of what I did with our state was to work on training when laws, especially laws about kids and families, changed, so that everybody knew what the new rules were. Is the law that has passed perfect? No. But that's the other problem with passing laws. Sometimes you pass them and then one thing and not another. And that's now what is happening with the new legislature that's coming in, the General Assembly in January. They're going to be looking at the laws, the complaints that they've heard from the prosecutors and the police departments and sheriffs to see how it might be changed. As part of that process, when I started hearing about all the complaints, I started looking at the law that was passed. And I saw problems as well. So I have taken myself to our delegation as well after the House of Delegates to talk to them about the issues that I see that are problems. In addition, I had an hour interview with the deputy member of that House of Delegates committee, explaining to her why some of the things that were proposed, that were passed, the police can't talk to a juvenile unless the juvenile has spoken to an attorney. Well, in Virginia, parents could make that decision. Why is the state taking away from parents the right to have the parent tell the child what they needed or should do or shouldn't do? Well, Maryland has done that. I think that's wrong. I think that ought to be something that ought to be available to talk to the police or not. And I also found when I was on the bench that I would do advisements of children who were charged after our court service unit, which is like the Department of Juvenile Services, after they advised these kids of their rights. What percent? Almost none. I mean, maybe 5%. So that this whole emphasis on advising of rights, et cetera, picks up a lot of noise and a lot of steam. But the reality is that even if those kids are advised, some of them aren't going to understand it and will talk or won't talk, but they still aren't going to understand what their rights are. What I've done in addition to propose some legislation for our General Assembly to look at, I've also sent to the governor's office and to our delegation, the Maryland Municipal League, and some other mayors, a proposal about how the state of Maryland can do better in getting resources to communities for at-risk children. Right now, most money comes through grants, and grants are a year or 2 years maybe, or 3 years. The court has some programs that they have for truant kids. There's a truancy court, and they have someone who's hired that helps there. But in other ways, there's the money can come, but it then disappears. And what I have seen is that, and heard from other mayors, is that when smaller communities, rural communities, small towns, go out for grants, and we're up against Baltimore or Prince George's County or Montgomery County or someplace else, guess who wins? We don't. And so what I'm talking to them about is a funding stream similar to what we had in Virginia, which is the state looks at data about each community, truancy, delinquency, number of kids, school graduation, ready for kindergarten data, all of those kinds of things, as well as the financial health of different communities, to look at which communities need a funding stream that will just come to the community for the community to decide on what is needed. Where do we want to spend, or where should we spend this money, instead of a grant coming from Annapolis that tells us where we have to spend the money. What we found in Virginia is that communities are capable of making these kind of difficult and challenging decisions, because there's never enough money for what is needed. But it also helps to engage the rest of the community in seeing what's working, what programs are working, what programs aren't, and will help engage the community in being part of the solution, just as the chief and Captain Patton are talking about in regard to what we all can do as citizens. Will these changes, happen immediately? The legislature is going to be, knocking all this stuff around, hearing from police chiefs and prosecutors and whatnot in the coming General Assembly. And some laws are going to be modified, I'm sure. Is it going to be a major shift? No. The other part of it is, for instance, with the under 12, as when we were talking about this before, to me, 12-year-olds really shouldn't be going to court. They ought to be getting services. But if that 12-year-old is the second time, or a third time, or a fourth time, then maybe that child needs to go to court. So that just doing a blanket, none of them could go, to me, again, doesn't make sense. So it's making the tweaks to the law that currently exists is what we got to be about. But what you all have to I think, do is sign up to be part of the Neighborhood Watch. Talk to the kids that you see in your neighborhood. Talk to kids you see walking by. Let them know that they're not being ignored. Just saying hello tells them something. I can't tell you the number of times when I say hello to a child, walking on the street, and it's like, what's he doing? What's he talking about? And it's just saying hello and recognizing that they are there, they exist, and they too are important. So, thank you.
Okay. So now it's time to ask your questions, if you have any, and the chief can solve a lot of problems, but he probably can't solve crimes tonight. So you might want to defer those questions, but I'll start it off. How many police officers should we have?
We actually just are in the midst of attempting to complete a staffing study. I'll stand up because I cannot sit down and talk. But we're going to be completing a staffing study. Hopefully we get all the correct data. It'll actually give us a range of how many police officers we feel our city needs for the number of crimes. We'll be able to provide that report to you sooner rather than later, hopefully before the next budget session.
Okay, good. Anybody else?
You had your hand up first, I think.
I'm Teresa Knight McFadden, and I'm part of Main Street Gallery on Poplar Street. And this isn't really criminal, but we've noticed a lot more people on the street who are just wandering around, who look really down on their luck. Several have come into our gallery asking our patrons for money. Just seeing a lot more of that. And we're wondering what's going on. Several years ago, we saw a lot of that, then not for a long time. And now all of a sudden, today, there were 2 people who came in on my watch, and people wanting money, people wanting, food, that kind of thing. try to send them to different social services, but just wondering what's going on.
Yeah, that's a very good question, and we had a meeting with the city manager and a representative the day before yesterday about homelessness in Cambridge and what we can do about it to make it better. You are exactly right. Most of our homeless issues are not criminal police, it's not driven criminally. Most of our homeless population are, there could be several reasons why they're out on the street homeless. One, there's not enough shelter around here for the homeless. There's no place for them to go. Salvation Army does a wonderful job. The police department works very closely with them to try they can do the feed. So getting more shelters. I know there's a citizen in Cambridge that's trying to work to open a shelter within the city, and I'm hopeful that the city may be able to help them out with that. But the last thing the police wants to do, certainly if they commit a crime, then yes, 100% they need to be held responsible for that crime. But if we have somebody it's down on their luck, our first thing that we should be attempting to do is trying to find them resources and get them the help they need. My suggestion is to call, please. That's what we're here for. If they come in the store, or if they're walking around and you see that one, they're suspicious in some type of way, or that they may need help in some kind of way. That's what we're there for. Please call us, and we can't promise that we can have them leave and they may come back. But we'll definitely work to try to get them the resources. I know there's several people in the past that have success stories that were homeless in Cambridge for years. And it took the constant contact with resources to get them to where they were. I don't agree it should take that long, but that's what we have to work on as a community and a society moving forward.
Do you know why suddenly there seem to be so many more homeless people?
I think a lot of, we have facilities in and around our community, not just in the city of Cambridge, but Dorchester County, that they get out of a program for one reason or another. And I know this has happened 3 times in the last month in the city, where they were pretty much put out on the street with no bus ticket back to where they came from. And they were wandering around the city. And what is somebody going to do if they have nothing else? They're subject to commit a crime or be a victim of a crime. And you may be seeing that. I can't say that for sure, but certainly we've seen that in the last month, and we're trying to address it with those facilities now to make sure that doesn't happen. Continue that.
If I could add, Teresa, Valerie Davis and Jack Somm came to me about a month ago about the homeless during the daytime and the need for some shelter, need for funding, need for a place where they could go. The research mostly that Valerie has done, and she runs the homeless shelters for Delmarva Community Services. But it's Delmarva Community Services and Salvation Army that have the nighttime places. Salvation Army is going to be looking this spring probably to make a determination as to what they can do about growing more, or putting more places on their property. We have been looking for money and for places where people can go during the daytime. There are really 2 places for during the week, and that is One Mission Cambridge, and the other is the Overflow Cafe. Overflow Cafe is Tuesday to Friday from 8 in the morning till 4. One Mission Cambridge, I think is like a Monday, and then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
The lady today that I met said she was at Overflow Cafe.
Yeah, so that what we are also trying to do is to get, we've raised probably close to $30,000 to open someplace on Saturdays and Sundays, but we haven't found that place yet. I'm reaching out to, well, we've reached out to 2 places in hopes that we could use this money to also pay to have somebody be with those people during during the day. There's also an overnight need. Valerie needs about $5,000 to pay the hotels in town for placing people who otherwise are going to be out on the street. So it's a significant problem. It is a community this size, it's a solvable problem, but we all need to be part of the solution here. But it's a great question. Dudley?
Can I speak to that a little bit? I'm Dudley Parr, I run the Overflow Cafe.
Okay.
I know exactly who you're talking about. And just, she's also burned her bridges such that she can't stay at the local motels. And she's got mental health issues. That's probably the biggest underlying thing for most of our homeless friends, and I call them friends because they are. But it's the mental health issues, and then trying to get them connected. So we've been having this conversation about where can people go. If it's really, somebody's really having a serious want to go, there's a fellow who's been hanging out in Cannery Row there, who I've talked to a number of times, invited him in. Dude, I got great food. We got the best soup around. And he, whatever is going on, he's waiting for his mom to come pick him up. And so somewhere there's a mental loop there. And that's one of the hardest things. We can have all those facilities, but for wherever people are, wherever they're stuck, they want to stay, I don't want to say they want to stay stuck, but they're going to stay in that space. What makes a difference is developing a relationship, getting to know them so that you know people by name. Feeding money, giving people money, it's like feeding the bears. They become dependent. That's one of the things about what we do at the cafe. You don't just walk in and say, please, sir, can I have some? Everybody can become a volunteer. So you have a way of contributing, giving back. You don't have to have money, but you have something that's of value. And we feed plenty of people who aren't even, are having a tough time. But if people would take time, and this also goes to, I think, dealing with our young kids, about developing relationships. Not just, saying hi and acknowledging people is really important. I know the Cat and Patton has a gentleman's club and basketball, police, and then there's the Boys and Girls Club. All of these programs need mentors. Boys and Girls Club looking for an hour and a half a week. An hour and a half a week to spend time getting to know somebody and engaging in games. And in this room here, there are enough, so you have been successful. You have learned how to manage a bank account. I'm pretty sure everybody here has a regular roof over their head and all of it. You have skills and knowledge that a lot of these kids don't have. And so, we are all the programs are great, but we can be significant, serious, parts of that solution by being willing to share ourselves, engage with people. And our friend Tracy, because I know that's what one of them was, she's struggling.
Actually, it wasn't Tracy.
No. Because Tracy was with us.
I know who Tracy is too. Tracy's been.
Yeah. But so you know names and you know who people are, and that's.
We do try to be kind, but we're running a business too.
Yeah.
And the guy came in during one of our openings, and we had all these guests from all over, and he had on red tent, he wanted food, and then he was angry, and somebody gave him some money, and then, it's not good for,
Right.
when running.
We can't, they can't be, we don't let people panhandle either time and feel guilty. I mean, it's a killer for business. We should talk because there may be some things we can do to help with when you run into those things. And we want to be that kind of resource for folks. But it is about some relationships and engaging with people.
I just have, I have leadership questions, I guess maybe for, Judge Hideout. I have 80 years on the Eastern Shore of Maryland. And, what I have found is that so relationship building is hard because of that. They're coming here to get something that they need. And I just wonder if any of the mayors on the shore, if anybody talks about how they're doing their share. I mean.
How the other cities are doing their.
Yes, because I know for a fact that there are a couple of cities that just say, go to Cambridge.
Well,
And that's fine, and until we get to the point where we can't handle it all, while there are others who are not doing their fair share. So,
Well, it's interesting, some data that David Foster, the mayor of Chestertown, has put together is that, for instance, Cambridge, the income level here compared to the county, we're about 50% lower than what the county is. And yet the only resource we get from the county is the county pays for the school. The county doesn't pay anything else, and we're using that data in a whole separate thing about tax differentials, whereas the city is providing police and fire and planning and zoning and historic preservation that the county doesn't have to pay, and our tax differential rate is 8 cents when it ought to be 20 cents or 30 cents, which is money that ought to be coming back to you. But we're looking at these kinds of issues now for the first time, I think. Don't know where it's all going to fall out, but we don't have any control over what some other city or mayor decides that they want to do or not do. They're free to run their city the way they want to and send people where they want to send them, just as we are. So.
Can I add to that? Dave Thatcher. I've heard for years that the word on the street is that Cambridge is a good place to go to get your kids into school, get food, get housing, all that. What is it about Cambridge that attracts them as opposed to, say, Tolman or Pearl or any of these other cities?
The amount of Section 8 housing.
Well, what I can say is,
Something going on that we're promoting this.
I hear that too, and what I hear similar kinds of things, and I call them legends.
Okay.
I don't know, I've never met anybody who could give me data that there are 500 people that have moved here from someplace else because somebody told them to, or 20, whatever. I just hear that that's what happens, but I've never found any data that tells me anything else. And our population here has grown very little in the past 10 years.
Well, I'm getting this information third and second hand from teachers, like at Sandy Hill, or people I know that have volunteered at that community center on Greenwood
When
Avenue.
they give it to you, ask them where they got it from, because
They know the kids that are there didn't come from Cambridge, they came from Baltimore or Philly.
well, for instance, when I was on the bench in Virginia, I would get kids from New York who had been kicked out of school in New York, and they would come to live with an aunt in Alexandria and just be put into school, and the school system wouldn't know anything about if this kid had been kicked out of school or, had been convicted of a crime or anything else. So you had that all over the country, where people just, they move their children or nephews or nieces or whatever, because they've had to because of a school situation or home situation. And they're free to do that. There's no law that prevents that from happening.
Do we have a rough estimate of the number of homeless people in Cambridge? I mean, just a rough number? And then compared to the capacity to accommodate them, is that known in the city or?
I don't know.
To answer your question with a quick number is no, because it fluctuates. It fluctuates between summer and winter. We could have, 10 known homeless people that we know are walking up and down the street panhandling or going to the Wawa or the rural farms out on 50, and we could not see them again. So we're the type of, to be able to answer that question with a solid Salvation Army and the other, Valerie might have a better answer for that, but yeah, that's tough to get a number on that.
There are a lot of people that are just couch surfing, and they're using their food stamps to pay whoever is letting them stay in their house. So they're not eating because they're giving their food stamps for a place to sleep at night.
I think another important thing to recognize is that a lot of the developments that are built and still being built in the area are advertising and still selling properties, selling apartments. I know Conifer Village is still advertising and inviting people here. And we want that. We do want people to want to move here and live here. That's a positive. So a lot of the things that make this city appealing to us, make it appealing to other people. It's very easily located. It's right on Route 50. It's within 2 hours from all these urban areas. So we're a hub, whether we recognize it or not. We're kind of off on the shore, but we're a very vital little community, and there's a lot of appeal to it. So if we want to sell it to other people, we have to recognize it's going to be appealing to people on a lot of levels. Because we are an impoverished area, we actually do have a lot of facilities available that other areas don't. It's unfair for us to ever compare ourselves to Talbot County. Talbot County is a tax haven for millionaires. It has been that way for a very long time. They have planned very carefully in their urban structure and all that. And they do have a lot of Section 8 housing. They do. They've just very carefully planned where it is. And it is part of neighborhoods. My family lives over in Easton. If you drive through, you can see them. But they planted them carefully so that those people that live in those developments are part of a community, and they're supported in a way that they aren't necessarily here in Cambridge. So that's, I think, some of what we have to consider in a lot of these questions.
Shane Walker was texting me tonight, so I asked him. Right now, they have 12 to 14 guests on a regular basis, plus there are a few more in the community who either won't come in for a variety of reasons. And one of the things that's tough is to be counted as homeless with under HUD, you actually have to be in a shelter. Couch surfing, going from couch to couch, that doesn't count as being homeless for HUD standards. So, marginally housed is different from being truly homeless by those governmental standards.
Somebody had their phone on hand. Yes, sir.
Moving away from this topic. In data mining that you're doing, is there any evidence or to what extent is the crime perpetrated by, I'll call non-residents of the Cambridge community? And secondly, is there any evidence that there's, for lack of a better word, any gang activity of note in the area?
Yeah. Yes. There is some people refer to them as groups. I refer to them as gangs because they're gangs. At the end of the day, that's the definition. You have a group of individuals that, the street code is what they live by and go by. And unfortunately, most, except for two of our homicides in the last 2 years, have been due to the street code, which is, gang, turf war, fighting back and forth. The Greenwood Avenue gang, the Pine Street gang, there's this constant social media where they're going back and forth on social media. Our last couple of homicides, that's what it's amazing what social media has done to influence that and cause that. So yes, there is gang activity. Most of our major violent crimes, gunplay, is concentrated in one area, and it's by certain, mostly two groups, which live in and about Cambridge.
Are they known to you? Are they known
Yes.
to the enforcement,
Yes.
law enforcement community?
Yes,
Okay.
very well known. We know most of them, identified most. There's always new that come in. But yes, we do know who, for lack of a better term, the players on the street are.
Do you have programs designed to, I presume that deterring that type of activity and just uniformed officers? So
Yeah, we have the Dorchester County Task Force. One of our detectives is assigned there. And they, since last April, they were concentrated heavy on gang activity, gun violence activity. We've done, and I don't have the number off the top of my head. I don't know if you do, Captain Patton, the number of search warrants and arrests that we've made, which I contribute to not only our police department, but the task force, Dorchester County. The reason why we don't have 7 homicides this year is because of the strong work that law enforcement agencies are doing together. And I truly, truly believe that. A year ago, being up here and standing at this podium to tell you that I wasn't worried when I went home of a night of when the next homicide was going to happen concerned me, because of not that it's not random shootings. These are gangs that they're going back and forth. Our shot spotter is going off on our phone at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and we know exactly what's going on. It's just the subject of who's shooting at who. So I think we're in a far better shape. I think we're going to hear a lot more progress here in the next couple months on where we are with the gang activity. And I hope this time next year, I'm standing up here talking about how crime has decreased greatly, because I believe we're at a point that we can get there and do it.
does Cambridge have a problem level illegal drug activity that contributes to the
Poverty leads to crime and criminal activity. Our impoverished community, yes, there is substance abuse issues. Most crimes that occur are, other than gang activity, are because of substance abuse issues. Whether that person needs to, get their fix, they're going out of rehab, they're going back in, they don't have anywhere to go, they'll go commit a crime because, they need that. So yes, that's drugs is definitely an issue that we fight with constantly.
One last question, I'll stop for Captain Patton. Your neighborhood watch programs?
Yes, sir.
How many in total do you have?
We rolled it out in September, and so far we have 3 that are up and running.
So have you had any success in developing neighborhood programs in the areas where there are high crime statistics?
Yes, each neighborhood watch is different. It depends on what your community wants, what your community needs. One of the communities program, they had an issue with children not having anything to do after school, so guess what we have now? We have our school program. So yes, there is success stories. And to mention to what Chief talked about, you asked about programming. In the fall, we sent 2 police officers to Arizona for gang training. So we are going to be implementing, it's a program called GREAT, Gang Resistance Education and Training. And that program where we'll have police officers going to each elementary school and talk to our children about gang violence and not becoming into gangs. So we're starting at our younger level, because what we're noticing is that that the gangs have recruited some of our children to be in the gang. So we're going to start that program at the elementary school level to try to hit that off and stop that.
Have those areas shown interest in your neighborhood watch programs?
Yes,
Again,
they have.
because again, recognizing you can't be everywhere,
Yes.
and going back to the local neighborhood is the best resource
Yes,
available to
actually,
you.
one of those, one of our neighborhoods, that was the first neighborhood that we did, we implemented a program called crime prevention through environmental design, which has proved to work all over the country. It reduces crime 85%. So we had 3 meetings there. That neighborhood said we want to change our environment. So we're going to change the environment there as far as from roads and changing road signs and entranceways and access into that neighborhood to prevent crime there. So to answer your question, yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so let's, one more question, then we'll, and this gentleman raised his hand right at the beginning.
Yeah, he was first one.
First shall be last. Couple of things, actually. Have you found a relationship with the gangs that you've identified here as being just local gangs or tied somehow to, I forget what it's called, MX?
MS-13, Bloods, Crips. Most of the gangs here are localized gangs. Now there is ties to the Bloods and the Crips, but it's like a tree. You know, you have a Blood gang, you have several branches of gangs that branch off. Throughout my years, I've heard, several of them throughout the Treetop Peru, but these gangs that we've been dealing with the last couple of years are simply the Greenwood Boys and the Pine Street Boys. That's what they go by, and they don't dare go on each other's turf, and if you do, there's going to be issues. So to answer your question, there are ties. We know that, but it's nothing that we can say they're actual Blood members or Crip members, stuff like that.
As a new member of the community, I'll have to get my map out and figure out where Pine Street and
Greenwood, yeah, Greenwood.
The other question, a couple of times the word, I think it was shot spotter has come up. What, I'm not familiar with that.
Okay, Shot Spotter, we're actually the only city on the Eastern Shore that does it. Baltimore City has Shot Spotter, and I believe there's another town or city, Bladensburg, has Shot Spotter. But there are sensors that are put on certain areas throughout our city where our high crime areas are shootings. Most of our shootings occur, and when a gunshot goes off, it's a triangulation that it develops that will put our officers within a circular 82 feet range of where that shot was. And I can tell you the occasions that we've gone and we found evidence, it puts us right where the shell casings are and evidence of the crime. And one of the things that really has sparked the city to do that and caught everyone's eye. We had 2 homicides in 2021 that the victim laid on the street for several minutes. One, the subject was alive. The fact that we watched surveillance video of people not calling 911 or seeing the subject there led us to this when we saw this. And through the help of the city council and the city manager, we were able to get this funding, and I speak highly of it. I think it's a great tool for us, and it's another. And you know what? The suspects and the people that are shooting, they know it's there. They know what's going on. And
Okay, I will recognize you for the last question.
I'm Greta Salver. I'm Deep Harbor Community President. I had a question for the Mayor of Commerce.
Well,
I know the area with something.
When it's developed, there would be certainly jobs for the development of it and for the hotel. There is the Chamber of Commerce and Chesapeake College have jobs programs, jobs training.
These training programs can be filled?
That there aren't going to be businesses that come here to then have people trained. What's happening is part of economic development. There's an effort to bring businesses, but the school system, the tech center has for kids, job training, but at a very low minimum level. There's efforts through Chesapeake College to educate and train people. I know there's a driver's a truck driver's license.
Well, they'll be
program.
educated and they'll be trained and they'll leave. Are there going to be any businesses here that are going to keep these people and provide jobs?
Well, we'll have to see.
Okay.
Well, we want to thank the chief.
Okay, one more.
We want to thank the chief for taking one more question.
And anybody that wishes to, emails on the website, jtodd at cambridgepd.org. I got business cards. Please do not hesitate to reach out to me, and I promise I'll answer you.
Yes. Well, my name is David Walker. I reside at Foxtail Drive. As I'm listening, I do have questions on this community, because as I look around, this is not my community. It's an elephant in the room right now with something in communication, because I saw it last minute for the meeting today that there was a link to it. So as far as, I think, because the children we're talking about, the parents of those children are not here, other than myself. When I heard I would be here, I came here. And what I'm saying is, there's a rainbow on the other side. It's not a sad story. But anyway, thing is that it can't be ignored that the community is almost 50-50 black and white. But we are off in this room.
Well, nobody's going to go knocking on the doors asking them to come. I found out about it today too.
Well, that's okay. I mean, that's understood. But it's comments like that don't move things forward.
Well, I
Because
put
if we-
something on our Facebook page to tell the community about it.
Oh, okay. Well, what I'm getting at is, it's a reason. There's a reason why this exists the way it is right now. And I can.
How can we reach?
Well, that's what I'm getting at.
And I do want to say, what you're bringing up now, we have discussed extensively before this meeting. We brought it up as our number one problem,
Yes,
that there is all white people here,
yes.
and you're the only two exceptions.
It
And
shows
we
you
knew
that
there was
there's
a
two
problem,
communities.
and we tried to reach the other community, but how can we do that? It's better.
Well, we have to stop living in two communities.
I know. How can we reach
That's because we live in two communities. Like you said, we're not gonna knock on doors. Everybody did knock on the door either. And so what I'm saying is, we live in two communities, and I'm listening from what's in my mind. Let me tell you what I experienced. The homelessness and stuff, I understand. And a bum came up to you, whatever. You're very familiar with this incident. So I hear 4 times. And I'm like, oh, wait, that sounded great. I could feel it. AR, whatever, it was a big gun. I go to turn the lights off on my second level because it stopped. I go to the back blind to go look. By the time I got from here up to that gentleman, fireworks lit up, and I was straight to the floor, yelling to my daughter, who was 13, to get on the floor. So it went on for a while. It was like taking a hearing test, and you're like, am I still hearing this? Yes, I was still hearing it, because it went from the backyard into the home. This is 4 doors down. So my experience is different. 2 nights later, approximately, somewhere in that range, again, this time, 3 of my children are there. So I'm watching my daughters run out the room, get on the floor, and I'm on the floor. You all are experiencing this. And the most damning thing, excuse my French, about it is when I came outside, because at the end of it, I was, it was just, you couldn't believe that just happened. When I opened my front door and came out, it was like everyone in that community had walked out at the same time. It was eerie, like a tornado. It went through, it was quiet. And all I hear is creaking doors opening. So all of those people that opened their doors, which was everybody I could see right in front of me and on all sides, are victims of that. Okay? So the next day, the experience was state police, county, and city were stopping a lot of people. Aggressive stuff. I was, not to mention, it was 2 more shootings I was around since then. And how long ago was that first one, the first one I mentioned?
Yeah, been a little bit.
Well, it wasn't that long, about maybe 2 months.
2 months, yeah.
So now I'm coming home and I'm worried about being stopped. Not because I got anything on me, it's because of the nature of it. So they're looking, and I've done work with, I know Ms. Sergeant Patton, Captain Patton now, doing work in the community. And it's much different living there than hearing about it. All of these people were on the floor of their home, but they have to deal with possibly being stopped, getting a ticket or something. You don't feel like dealing with it. So if you get an attitude from somebody, someone's like, yo, I just went through that last night. Why? Like, I'm not even going down there. Why should I feel that way? I shouldn't have to feel that way. It should, y'all, you don't understand the psychology is different. With the things that you're speaking about, the psychology is totally different. But it got to come a time where people start understanding each other. The problem is this. I got a text. Got that from you. 2 people find a wallet. One of them steals it. The other one sends it to its owner. So who's right and who's wrong? Is the man wrong for stealing it? Don't be scared to answer.
Absolutely.
Absolutely? Okay. What if he was starving? What if he was starving?
Sorry.
Starving, hungry.
He's still.
Take the cash and send the wallet back.
Okay, check this out. Only a fool, stomach growling, and I see a wallet, I'm telling you right now what I'm doing with that money.
You asked if he did something wrong.
But how is it, but this is what I'm asking. It's a difference in views on things. This is why I'm saying that our views change based on situations and circumstances. You're not doing getting in the floor with your children. I know what that feels like at home. At
What
home.
is the message you're trying to impart on us?
Okay, the message is in part. You see, why would you be upset? I'm trying to explain something, and I'm being as, and what I'm saying is,
Towards what end are you explaining?
towards what end is you try to build something to where this doesn't keep happening, where there's just white people in the room and not. What this? It's not saying it's nothing racial about that. The point that he just said is a room full of white people.
So why don't you?
But the children, but wait. So in my thing is, hold up. I got
neighbors, man.
You said what?
Where are your neighbors? Where are these people that you said that are so?
See how you just separated yourself again? What are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? Don't just ask me. That's separating me from you.
I have 2 black women who are friends and who are, they're another community. They don't want to come to these meetings. They don't want to come. We've
Hold on, I'm on the board also. I would like to invite
We've
you
reached
to come
out.
and talk with us.
Absolutely.
We could absolutely cohesively.
Absolutely, and that's the end I'm looking for, like, I don't know none of you, so who do I ask and who do I speak to?
Well, we'll talk to you after the meeting, but I think we need to close this down now.
And I think that is community-oriented policing, and that is what we're trying as a police department to get to. We're at meetings where there are all blacks, we're at meetings where there are all whites, and we're trying to get everybody to come together, and it takes time and effort, but we'll get there. And I do know there's situations that some have never had to deal with before.
Yes.
And those stories need to be told and they need to be heard, and everybody needs to understand everybody's situation. Just like police officers and how you're trained to do your job in police in the city is to understand what people's going through in every community, not just one certain community. So I think I know we're going to end tonight, but there's a lot of conversation that can be had. I'd love to talk to you and anybody else that wants to talk about this topic.
And don't forget the cards. Don't forget the cards.
I'd like to thank the mayor, the police chief, and Captain Pat.
Yes, sir.
We'd like to thank them for showing up tonight and going over all the stuff that we learned tonight. It was really informative. And we'd like to do it again next year to see how much crime has gone down. So thank you very much. I have to mention we're going to do the bylaw.
And you put this also on the card, so they have the card.
Ah.